Sisa, thank you so much for joining me. I want to just start here because we heard from the tourism department. They revealed that international tourism industry is likely only to begin operations again in 2021. That must send shivers down your spine.
Yeah, good morning. Certainly the tourism sector has been hit. It is one of those that have been impacted, not only in South Africa, but globally. South Africa is following a risk-adjusted strategy. Whilst we cannot tell you the date, but we can tell you what level that tourism is allowed to come through. So as far as the dates of whether next year or this year, it all depends on how quickly we can move through the levels so that tourism can pick up again.
Okay, so the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, they've been lobbying government to actually speed up that process, phase in a reopening of South Africa's borders. How is that lobbying going at the moment? Any movement there?
Absolutely. So at the beginning, tourism was really starting at level 1 and a little bit of level 2. And what the sector did was they got together and did a whole lot of consultations, and they've introduced certain protocols that are health related and operational related. And what that has done is actually pushed up the start date from being level 1 into level 3. As we see right now that certain parts of tourism are allowed. At the moment, it's only business travel, but I think as we move along, you'll start to see other facets of tourism being slowly allowed back in again.
Most people, when we talk about tourism, people look at your huge hotels, your big resorts and so forth. But the biggest casualty here has got to be the small to medium enterprises within the tourism sector, isn't it?
Absolutely. If you look at the structure of the sector itself, it's got very few big players that are listed, but a lot of moms and pops and small businesses are lying underneath there. And it's part of that value chain that is impacted by essentially the front end stopping. Part of the recovery is going to be in a couple of phases. The first phase will be led by domestic, that you're going to start to see coming through, then regional, then ultimately international. And I think until that whole ecosystem comes together, you'll see the bits and pieces of the sector struggling a bit.
Is there a drive to get domestic tourism up? I suppose we have to wait until we get to that level when they can open up. But are we going to see a major drive in trying to get South Africans to visit? Let's say I must now go for holiday in Limpopo instead of going to Moz, for instance.
Absolutely. Look, the truth of the matter is COVID is with us, for the foreseeable future. And as a sector, we'll have to take care of ourselves as a country going forward. So domestic tourism is going to be at the heart of the reopening of the sector in itself, and it's going to be with us for the foreseeable future. It is absolutely that. It is about encouraging South Africans to travel within their country, and also as well to shift those that we're going to go overseas or outside the country to start traveling South Africa itself. I think there's an opportunity to showcase the entire country in its entirety, because for the short term, we're not going to be getting any international visitors, so we'll have to take care of ourselves as a country.
Okay, so here's what we know. The summer, September to March, that represents 60% of all the annual business in terms of tourism. So many people are going to lose a lot of money. Are you happy with the support measures that have been put in place by the department?
Well, we are where we are at, and this is not just a tourism story, but it's a country and economy story as well. We do have a fiscus that's got a very tight environment, and the allocation of those resources become quite deliberate as well. And what you're trying to do, you're trying to ease the economy back in again, and tourism is one of them, at the same time protecting the supply side, because what you want is that when we are ready to open, you want to make sure that the businesses that are part of tourism are able to operate and are able to trade as well. So it's a very tight balance as well. So we're also looking around the world and observing, certain economies starting to come back in again. And, there are some lessons that we are picking up and make sure that we can apply into our environment as well.
Look, you've got game reserves that have been open. The tourism, in terms of the hunting industry, that's also that they can also resume there. So, a little light coming through in terms of the industry itself. I want to just talk also about the future of tourism. Where do you see it going after COVID-19? Does it drastically change? Does that industry now have to do things differently after this?
Well, yes, certainly you are right. We are seeing the first signs of the easing up. And at the moment, only business travel is allowed. The provincial borders are still up. Aviation has picked up again, and I think we're going to start to see then the sequencing coming through there. Looking forward, absolutely. Tourism is going to fundamentally change, both in terms of how we consume tourism as a public as well. Health is going to be at the forefront to make sure that we can protect ourselves, and also how the sector delivers tourism. You're going to see a lot more technology come into play, digital. You'll be having self-check-ins at hotels. We've seen now even buffets are probably going to be something of the past or have to be reimagined. But it's all about having as little contact as much as possible with people until and unless we get a vaccine for the virus.
You talk about technology, which is fantastic, but doesn't that take away jobs? Because tourism, to me, almost seems to rely on I must come to your establishment. That's the bigger part of it, isn't it? Whether I'm going to sleep over, it's for bed and breakfast, whatever it may be, or I'm just coming over for the day to spend money in your particular establishment. If I can't do any of that anymore and I could just go online to see the Kruger National Park, for instance, I don't have to visit. I can see it online. That takes away so many things, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that is the difficult or tight path that we have to navigate through. Tourism is a contact sport. It's all about social interaction, right? But at the same time, with a pandemic that we're also trying to manage. And the social distancing is the key and buzzword globally as well. And it's finding a new calibration, in terms of how we consume tourism. I fully agree with you that, look, you can have all the virtual views all you want, but nothing takes away the physical experience of smelling the air, and at crack of dawn, hearing the animals, with your own ears and everything else there. And it is that balance then that we have to find. But you're absolutely right. There will be impact on jobs. There will be an impact in terms of how tourism is delivered. A lot more self-service, I think you're going to see as well. And again, the consumer needs will evolve and change over time. And it is to make sure that destinations and businesses are able to respond to that and be able to fulfill the requirements of tourists globally.
All right, thank you so much for talking to us, Sanchona, who is, of course, the South African Tourism CEO. It's going to be hard times to come, but I suppose we all evolve no matter what.